Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 19 of the Hello Grace podcast. I am your host, SarahStevens. You can find me on Ravelry as SarahStevens, and you can find my shop on Instagram as, well, I guess you can find me too on Instagram as Graceland_wool. And I am the owner and dyer behind Graceland Wool. You can find my shop at www.gracelandwool.com. Yeah, so I'm coming to you from Spokane, Washington. It's where I live and I work and I raise my family and I do all of the things crafty here. Thank you to all of the new viewers and subscribers to the podcast over the last 2 weeks. There have been quite a few, so thank you so much for showing up and checking me out. And returning viewers, thank you guys so much. I did have a couple people share my last podcast, which was really cool. I had not had that, I don't think, in the past, or at least I didn't know how to look for it. So that was really, really cool. So it is 2018. It is Sunday, January 21st. And I'm just hanging out a little bit this afternoon. I'm going to speed through this podcast one more time because in a few minutes my house is going to get chaotic again. I know I kind of warn you guys every single time, but this time you might be affected by the chaos. We'll see. But I'm drinking coffee out of my amazing mug. I picked this up at a local craft fair, actually, and a guy was selling these. And he does this pottery himself. I believe he said that these were done, like that they were rolled out first and then stamped and then added back onto the wheel. I could be wrong. Or maybe they were done straight on the wheel. I'm not sure, but I love this mug. So it has been a crazy full 2 weeks. I would love to be able to podcast regularly, like every single week, but I just can't. There's just not enough to show you in 1 week's time for me. I find that I have patches of time over the course of 14 days that I can actually get some stuff done. But today, yeah, so I guess we'll get started. So in today's episode, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about one FO that I have and a few works in progress. One of them you've already seen and I've made some progress on. I've got some new ones. And then I do have some acquisitions. So some of my club yarn has come in, so I'm kind of excited about that. I had talked about kind of making my own club this year, and so a few things had come in. And I have a very special gift from somebody that I would like to share with you as well. So first of all, let's get started with my FO. I got my socks done. These are my very first pair of socks in 2018. Completed. I started these in January. Yep. I knit these guys cuff down, and I actually did the magic loop this time, and I knit them cuff down on my 2.0 millimeter Haya sharps. I use a 24-inch cable when magic looping. I've been asked that question before. I don't like any more cable than that. I just think it's too fussy and too much cable to fiddle with. So I prefer a 24-inch cable. Some people find that that's too short. I find that it's just the perfect size for me. But if you've never tried Magic Loop before, you should definitely try it. I love using my DPNs and I love using Magic Loop. Now I know some people are one or the other. I do like to switch back and forth. I find that I go faster knitting Magic Loop. However, I feel like if I'm knitting a sock cuff down, the whole heel section is so much easier to do and maneuver with DPNs. So in that case, I might, on my next pair of cuff down Magic Loop socks, actually convert over to some DPNs and then go back to Magic Loop. We'll see. I'll let you know if that's easier for me. I like the speed, so and I like how fluid it goes with DPNs during the heel, but for the rest of the sock, I feel like you just go so much faster Magic Loop. So anyways, I knit these guys using the first skein of yarn that I'd never used before, and it was Nicole of the Hue Loco Yarn Company DJ Glitter Buns, and this is in her in her Luxe sock base. Is that right? Yeah, in her Luxe sock base. It does have cashmere in it. I'm not entirely sure of the percentage. If I really was good at what I was doing, I might have kept that tag handy, but I didn't, so it's okay. And then on the heels and the toes, I used some hedgehog fibers in there. Here we go. I do have this one. Nope, that's a DK band. Oh well. I'm using some hedgehog fibers skinny sock, right? Hedgehog fibers sock base in the skinny dip colorway. I did make myself notes. This is my extent of my notes. Just what I was working on. I'm not very good at keeping track of the podcast notes, but that's okay. We'll figure it out as we go. So I absolutely adore those socks. That is my very first pair of socks for my box of socks in 2018. I can't wait to go put those in the threads for Kristen of the Woolen Vine Yarns and the Yarn Guysm podcast. She always does a box of socks cal every single year, and I always participate, just not usually online. And this year I'm excited to participate online as well. I'm fingers crossed I actually get it done. In addition to that, the Grocery Girls are running their year-long of socks, right? And each month they have a different prompt. And January's was to knit with a skein of yarn that you had never knit with before, or new pattern, new to you something, new some way, shape, or how. And for me, I did the Pebbles sock pattern from Mina Phillips, and that was the very first time I had ever knit that pattern. And I also used Nicole Hue Loco's yarn, first time ever using that yarn, so I feel like it was kind of a first on both fronts, so that's really exciting. So yep, one more time, these guys, I love them. They're so soft, squishy. I can't wait to wear them next year. So that is my only FO of the week. I don't have any more FOs. I do have a few whips. One more sock whip. So since we're on socks, I guess we'll talk about socks right now. I decided as soon as I cast off of that I wanted to cast on another pair of socks and get them out of the way for January. Now, a couple years ago, I desperately tried to participate in the Desert Vista Dye Works socks knit along. So you were supposed to knit a pair of Desert DVD socks all year long, one each month, and it had to be completed entirely of Desert Vista Dye Works yarn, and I failed. So I had a couple skeins left over, and I thought I really wanted to knit up a pair of stripy socks because they usually go really, really fast. And so I got started on a pair. I am knitting just shorty socks, so I did knit them cuff down, magic loop. I finished a whole, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 repeats, including the cuff, 4 repeats of the colorway, and then I did a contrasting toe. I had an old skein of just some blue yarn that I had dyed up forever and ever ago, and so I just popped that on the toe, and I'm going to use that also for the heels. I'm going to cut in some afterthought heels, and pretty much where these go, the heel is going to go right here. So they are going to be shorty socks, but I find that in the spring I do wear my short socks more often around the house. So I'm going to knit myself a couple pairs of these. These won't go in any knit along or anything like that. So I have one complete tube done. I am almost done with the second tube. I have one more repeat left. In fact, I wound off just as much as I needed for that last tube, minus the toe. And so I will hopefully have those done tonight. There's only one problem with these socks, and it's kind of a bummer, and I contemplated whether or not I was going to say anything, but whenever I'm knitting with these, for whatever reason, the blue keeps coming off on my hands, and it dyes my hands, and so I really wanted to address that for just a moment. I'm sure that in the past or at some point in your knitting history, or my camera, you might come across this. And some people think that it's only because the dyer did not set the yarn or the dye properly. And so I really wanted to address that for a minute. I mean, Desert Vista Dye Works is a very popular yarn, and it's been around for a really long time. I know she knows what she's doing. And this by no means was a very first skein of her yarn. It wasn't. I mean, it was just a few years ago. Chances are there was just so much excess dye that just did not get rinsed out all of the way before it got wound up. And that is really common. There are certain colorways, or I guess I should say colors, that are really hard to set in the first place, or that it just takes forever to rinse them out completely. Blue is one of them. Red or purple is another one. And so if for whatever reason you come across this, please don't get discouraged. It's pretty easily fixable just by simply making sure that you wash your yarn by itself the first couple times. And if you're really worried about it bleeding onto another color, the Color Fast, like the color catchers, are really great to use those. But mostly it's just taking some time and really rinsing them out will do the job. And then if you're still in doubt, you can always pop them in a bath of citric acid and reset the dye. But I really don't believe that in this instance, it was that the dye wasn't set. It's just there's so much dye, and it just happens. So I love these. I can't wait to get these done and get them washed and ready to go. I think that they are going to be awesome. So there we are. That is pair number 2. These are just vanilla sock tubes, and I'm going to use the cut in after heel tutorial from Kirby Werby. Cherie of Kirby Werby Yarns. She has a cut in afterthought heel tutorial on YouTube that you can check out if that is something that is of interest to you. I find that her video is the easiest to follow. I really do enjoy it. So if that is something you're interested in, then definitely that one's my go-to. It doesn't allow any gaps on the sides. Like some afterthought heel tutorials allow for some gappage on the side, and so you have to sew those up, but Cherie's does not. So, and I feel like Susan B. Anderson might have one too that is very similar. So anyways, okay, so socks are done. The next whip that I got started on that's new that you guys have not seen is this brand new hat pattern. I started on the Speckle Star hat. Let's see if I have a decent picture. And I hope you can see it. There we go. Speckle Star hat. This is by Justina Lurkowska. I'm terrible at names, you guys. I don't know. So Justina, if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, I still apologize, but this is not a great picture because I did print it out in black and white, but I'm using 2 different skeins of DK. It is written for DK yarn. I am changing my needle size, I believe. Let me double check that before I completely lie to you. It calls for a number 4 and a number 6, yes. And so I actually switched mine. I am using a number 5 and a number 7 because I am using 1 skein of worsted weight and 1 skein of DK, and I think it's going to be fine. I am going to, you know, I want to show you this chart because I want you to be able to see the pattern a little bit better, but I'm going to do it really, really quickly. Please don't pause the video and try and use her chart. Anyways, see, it's this beautiful snowflake pattern that happens across the hat, and I'm using for my main color just a skein of worsted blue that I like scraps that I had from some other project at some other time. I must have pulled it out of something because it was kinked up in some, and it had some pieces. So I'm using this up, which I'm really excited about, and then I'm using a skein of Hedgehog DK in the Genie colorway. It is much brighter There we go. It's much brighter, I feel like, in person. You really just don't see the yellows as much in here, but there are some highlighter yellows in there. And I'm only on row 6 of the chart so far, but this is what it's looking like. So you can't really tell. But there we go. I love it. I think it's going to be awesome. I love that there are just different colors, the little speckles, and then the solid back there as the main color. I feel like it's kind of a different take on the traditional Fair Isle or traditional two-stranded color kind of patterns that are out there. So it's a great way to use up some of your indie dyed yarn that maybe are just single skeins that you want to play around with. So this is an excellent pattern. It's mainly in charts. Well, it is mainly in the chart. I think there's some row by row. Yeah, there's some row by row instructions, but the chart is so simple to follow. I have no doubt in my mind that even the most beginner chart knitter would be able to use this. I do want to show you one of my tips on this though, so I'm going to fold this down so you can hopefully see. Do you see this tiny piece of washi tape that I have running across my page? Every single time that I finish a row of the chart, I just move my piece of washi tape up. It is the teeny tiny thin washi tape. It's not the normal average size that you can buy at Staples or anything like that. It is a smaller size. I'm sure you can get it at places like Michael's or Joann's, but I find that it doesn't stick too much to the pattern. It's about the same size as most chart squares, but the great thing is it doesn't take away from the overall pattern, so it's not like a whole huge space, so you can kind of see what's going on as you're knitting both top and bottom. So I really, really do enjoy that washi tape for that. Okay, we're about 20 minutes in. I do have a few more things to talk about that I've been working on. This little progress keeper, I believe I got this progress keeper. It's a little Christmas tree. I think that I got it from Molly of a Homespun House. I have this sneaking suspicion that I got some sort of a set from her, or maybe it was one of Diane of Suburban Stitchers kits at one point, but there was like a mitten and a Christmas tree. I don't know if anybody knows what I'm talking about. I would love to remember who that was from, but that was a few years ago. The last thing that I put some time into is my Hue Shift Afghan. I did work on this quite a bit this last 2 weeks. I think that I only had 4 squares done the last time that I talked with you guys, and here we go. So it's shifting nicely in the colors. I really am enjoying it. I'm using Cascade 220, and it is a pattern that you can purchase from Knit Picks. I'm using this in the Eat, Sleep, Knit year-long knit along that they do. And so this will hopefully, well, this I have to have done by the end of this year, but I'm hoping to have this first block of 25 squares done by the end of January. My goal is to kind of focus on a block every other month, so that way I stretch it out a little bit. I don't get too burnt out on doing this, but I still get it done in enough time before the end of the year, because you will have to put a border on it and then seam it together, and then of course weave in all your ends. And if you're doing it the correct way, you'll have way less ends to weave in, whereas I'm not doing it the correct way. I'm not putting my squares together on the right manner. I didn't have all my colors when I first started, and so I wasn't able to do it in the construction that they wanted you to for each of the 4 squares, 4 quadrants. And so that in turn, instead of only having maybe 10 ends to weave in per quarter of the blanket, I think I have like 30, but whatever, it's fine. It's not that big of a deal. They're just ends, and it won't take too terribly long. I've been trying to take a break every now and again, and as soon as I get a couple squares put on, to just weave those ends in as I go. and that seems to be working okay. So, okay. So that's my last work in progress. I feel like that's quite a bit. I do have one planning that I want to show you. And I have been itching to cast on a shawl, and I was thinking about knitting Stephen West's eyeball shawl because I thought it would be a really fun spring kind of a blanket actually to put on the back of the couch and not necessarily use it as much as a shawl, but more as a blanket. But I didn't have the colors that I really, really wanted to work on that for. So instead I started looking on Ravelry, and Josh Reichs, he's one of my sweet friends, he designed this shawl. This is called the Synthesized Shawl, and I love this. It's he turned a circular shawl into almost like an abstract piece, so it would be a little bit more masculine, a little less feminine. I don't know if it has a picture of it all the way stretched out. It does not, but it does have some short row shaping in there. It is meant to, it starts out as a pie shawl, I think, and then it does have some short row shaping, but I can't wait to get started on that. I picked out some yarn, and I thought these would be really fun to put together. So I have a skein of Graceland wool, just in a gray. Okay. I have a skein of Diane of Suburban Stitchers, her Dandaya, and it's on a single ply. So I have that. And then I also have a skein of Hedgehog. It's a 90% superwash merino, 10% nylon, and this is the Pesto colorway. So really excited about that. I think these three, there we are. I think these three will make a really excellent shawl. And I think I'll actually get a lot of wear out of it. It's kind of springtime, so I think it'll be perfect for when the snow starts to go away. I do plan on casting that on next week, so I'm really hoping to have a little bit of progress. I don't know how much of the colors play in the very beginning, so it might only be one or two that I'm able to get before the next podcast, but cross my fingers, that's what's going to happen. So, last podcast I talked to you guys a little bit about my plans to create my own Yarn of the Month Club based on different dyers that maybe I had not used before, or some of my favorites, instead of doing a Yarn of the Month Club from just one dyer like I had in the past. And while I loved getting a skein of yarn from some of my favorite people every single month, I found like because I committed myself to that one person or that one dyer, it didn't leave very much room for me to try other places out. So instead of doing that, I decided that each month I will just get one skein of yarn from a different person. So January was Nicole of Huloco. That one I already knit up. And then I'd mentioned that in February I wanted to knit from one of Shauna of Adelaide Cottage skeins of yarn. And one of my dear friends, Beth, she was watching the podcast and she heard me say that. And she knew that things had just been crazy around here lately, and she sent me the sweetest care package ever. And so she sent me some treats, which I've kind of been saving. I did have one. So she sent me some treats, and she sent me a few skeins of yarn. But I want you to see this cute little card. I'm not going to read it, but look at that cute card that she sent. It has like little glittery in it. It's so fun. So yeah, so she sent me this. She thought that this would be a really good set that I could use for the kids, and I think I'm going to do that. I'm really excited. I've never used Maker's Haven before, and it was on my list, so I don't know when I'm going to use this. Maybe this will be like a November cast on, I'm not entirely sure. This is called Dobby's Christmas Socks. It is a 75-25 blend, and it looks like it might be 250-gram skeins and a 20-gram skein. I could be totally wrong. I'm not entirely sure. These might just be 20-gram skeins, and this might be a 10. or this might be, I don't know. I don't know. So, but I think it's 250 grams and a 20 gram. And so I think that'll be really, really fun. So that was really sweet. But then she also popped this skein of Adelaide Cottage in the mail to me as well. This is on her Golden Twinkle base, and this is Lorelei's Dream. It is a club skein, and I don't know if she had this in there, but I believe this was a 2000, when was it? Yeah, August of 2017 skein. Yeah. So she sent me that as well, and I thought that was really sweet. So that is going to be my February cast on, and I'm really excited. I'm just trying to find the right sock pattern for that. It's very pretty. It is a gold stellina, and that is my favorite base. I believe it's similar, if not the same kind of a base that I carry in my shop as well. So there we are. So Shauna, it is amazing. I had emailed her because she's kind of been, her shop had been put on hold for a little bit because of some things that were happening with her, and so I had sent her a quick email saying, I know that the shop is on hold, but if you have any free skeins or whatever, I'd love to get one from you. And so she was actually going to let me pick out one. She said, I had 2 skeins left here. I'd be more than willing to sell you those. And then now that Sweet Beth sent me a skein, I don't need to. So I'm really excited about that, which kind of freed up an option for me. So I did order a skein from Legacy Fiber Arts in their steel toe base. This is the Willy Wonka colorway. So I'm really excited. I think this is going to be a February cast on too because it's completely pink and purple, and I'm kind of cheating a little bit. I was only going to do 1 dyer per month, but I think February is required. This is required to be a February skein as well. So yeah, I'm really excited about it with all the really pretty bright colors. And Sue and Chelsea were so sweet that they actually sent me this little Legacy Fiber Arts LLC enamel pin as well. So I'm really excited to put this on one of my bags. And I don't know if you guys have seen these before. I'm sure everybody has. Look at its little socks. Oh my gosh. So cute. So those things came in the mail. In doing this Eat, Sleep, Knit year-long knit-along, they have exclusive colorways that they come out with different dyers, and there just so happened to have been one dyer that I hadn't used before, and which I don't know why I have never used this dyer before. It's not like she hasn't been around forever, but whatever. This skein of yarn kind of called to me. This is Blue Moon Fiber Arts Super Sparkle Base, and it's the Gadgets and Gizmos. Such a cool skein of yarn. This skein of yarn I'm going to be knitting up for Diane of Suburban Stitchers Rainbow Along, because to me this is the epitome of a rainbow, and it's sparkly, so it's perfect. I don't know if you guys have ever participated or heard about Diane Suburban Stitchers Rainbow Along, but every single year she conducts a Rainbow Along, and whips are allowed. Anything is allowed. I can't remember the exact dates that it goes. I think it's just for the month of February. It might be for the month of February, March. Don't quote me on that. I'm not entirely sure, but she does have all the information available on her Ravelry group. But all you have to do is knit something that is knit out of a rainbow. And as long as you think it's a rainbow, then it counts. If she has to look at it and guess if it's a rainbow, then it's probably not a rainbow. But I feel like this is definitely a rainbow. And like I said, it's so sparkly. It's like, it really is a super sparkle base. I feel like it's a similar base. I mean, look at all that sparkle. Yeah. So, I'm really excited about this too. So February is going to be a busy sock month, I feel like, because all of these, 2 sparkles, There we go. 2 sparkles and a skein of Willy Wonka are destined to become a pair of socks. So that gives me about enough time to make do a pair of socks a week. But I think it's going to be just fine. All right, guys. The last thing that I got in the mail, and I actually got it in the mail a really long time ago. I don't know if you can see my son. He's sneaking candy. But I got it in the mail a really long time ago when I went to Vogue Knitting Live in Seattle. Right before I had left, I had sent a message out to Jody and Tracy of the Grocery Girls. And I said, listen, my daughter's Teacher Appreciation Week is coming up pretty soon, and her Spanish teacher does nothing but talk about how amazing these cheese somethings are, and they're basically like Cheetos, but he said they're way better than Cheetos. And he is just a really sweet guy, and so she said, Mom, is there any way we can try and go online and see if we can order these cheesies or whatever they're called? And I said, oh, I wonder if Jody and Tracy know about this. So I sent them a message, and they said, yeah, of course. So they sent me this huge box, which I haven't even had a chance to say thank you yet. So publicly, Jody and Tracy, if you're watching this, thank you so very much. I'm getting a package out to you in the mail. I know that I said we would do a swap. I just haven't had a chance to get mine assembled and sent to you yet. But they sent me this huge box of these cheesy things, and basically Cheetos, and along with some other things as well. But I think there were like 10 bags in there. I don't know. So she, of course, gave her Spanish teacher a couple bags. Oh, and there were these coffee wafers. Oh yeah. Okay. Canada has some of the best snacks. I swear. I would live in their snack aisle forever if I had to, or if I could, I guess. So anyways, we snacked on all of that. But then they also sent in a couple little things. They sent me this sweet, this bar of soap, which is actually in our shower right now. A card that is knit or made, printed out of Jody's. It looks like that's Malabrigo. It does look like Malabrigo. Printed knitted card, which I thought was awesome. They sent me this little bundle of mini skeins, which I can't wait to tell you my new plan for mini skeins. I have one other blanket that I'm trying to finish up, and that's the one that I was telling you that I was going to give to my aunt, the mitered square one. And then this new Hue Shift Afghan has got me thinking about a plan, and I'll share with you that in a little while. But they also sent me, let me take it off of my bag, because I've been keeping it on my bag. They also sent me a Grocery Girls enamel pin. So now I officially have 2 enamel pins. I feel like that's the beginning of a collection, so I'm kind of excited about that, and I can't wait to start collecting more. But anyways, okay. I don't have a shop update for you yet. Honestly, things have been so crazy. Construction is about to start in my basement, and I have just been crazy getting club yarn dyed and ready to go. So I do believe that next weekend I will have some stuff. I did throw some things in the dye pot. They're just not ready. And I feel like they need some tweaking. Have you guys ever felt like that before? I'm sure the dyers have. Like they do something and it doesn't quite turn out the way that they were expecting, but maybe the time, their time frame just didn't fit to fix it yet. So yeah, anyways, so hopefully next weekend we'll have a small shop update. However, I am looking forward to a large shop update happening in February, because by then my bathroom should be done downstairs. If you guys have been following around for a while, you know that we've been living in a 4-bedroom, 1-bathroom house for a little while because our second bathroom downstairs, literally the wall caved in when my daughter was taking a shower like 2 years ago. No, I guess it was 2 years ago. It was like last year. And we're finally able to start fixing it. So we're really excited to have 2 bathrooms again. A family of 5 on 1 bathroom is really seriously hard. The shower schedule is insane. So anyways, as soon as that's done, then I hope to be back at a normal dyeing schedule. I do have a pair of socks, a sock pattern design that has been tested. Does need some tweaking still. I think I'm going to be tweaking it a little bit more and sending it out for the next bout of testing. and re-tech editing again. So be on the lookout for that. I was planning on releasing that in January, but truthfully, Danny's sweet Christmas Eve cast on was adorable, and I didn't want to interrupt. Not that my pattern would ever do that, but I really wanted to give myself the chance to knit on her pattern. And then right after that, Hohi just released a beautiful sock pattern, and in fact it's her very first ever sock pattern. So now I have decided that this pattern probably won't be released until March. And the really cool thing is that in March I always do a mystery sock along, and I believe that I'm going to work this sock pattern into that. So I'm working on that. But anyways, I've chatted at you guys quite long enough. I hope that you've had a wonderful week, last 2 weeks since I've spoke with you last, and I hope that you continue to have a wonderful next 2 weeks. If this is a podcast that you enjoyed, I would really appreciate it if you give me a thumbs up, and even hitting that share button. It allows other podcasters or people who watch podcasts that might be interested in this find me a little bit easier. Otherwise, if this is not something that you were interested in, please, there are so many podcasters out there. You will find one that's amazing, and if you want to send me a PM or anything like that, I would be happy to recommend some really amazing ones too. So anyways, until next time, I hope you all have a great, happy knitting, crocheting, crafting time. See you later.